Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass, sponsored by SimQuips. I'm your host Roy Weller and we are at Silverstone for round 7 of our series. And as our drivers complete their first flying laps of the session, we'll take a few moments to look at our standings in the Porsche Cups, and it is Matthew Parry and Joe Wilson, both joint leaders at the moment on 412 points apiece. And just behind them on 402 points is Johan Leff. And then we have in P3 Jens Nilsson in a little bit of a land of his own with Sven Komjarovic, Alex here, John Sawyer and Jerome Eckhard very close together. That battle there over P5 looking pretty close at the moment. And as our drivers round to complete what will be their first flying laps, I believe it will be Joe Wilson who is approaching Luffield into Woodcut and through Luffield, and we will see our first lap times of the session. And now out of final corner and past the start finish line, it is a 2:01.5 Joe Wilson. Sam McCarthy, our last round's race winner, some 1.2 seconds off the pace at the moment. Still plenty of time for all of these drivers to find some more lap time. At the moment it is Joe Wilson setting the pace. Florent de Moore just a second behind now. So far it is Joe Wilson who's looking a little bit untouchable at the moment, looking at the timing tower. And tonight we have the return of our series sponsor, Mr. Chris SimQuips Wright, as he comes out of Aintree and on to the Wellington Straight. Where can Chris put that turquoise car? Been absent for a few rounds now, so maybe a little rusty behind the wheel. And we'll see what can he do with his first flying lap of this session. It is a 2:03.2 for Chris Wright, puts him P5 for now. And we've got plenty of drivers improving on their second runs in this session. Neither Parry or Leff are present for tonight's race, so it is Joe Wilson who gets to go set the pace all on his lonesome, unless someone else can step up to challenge. No, we still can't call this race a foregone conclusion. There's always a chance for a little bit of chaos when the Porsche Cups and the BMW M2s get together on track. There's John Sawyer getting a little bit of a slipstream there from that Klinger. Comes down to complete his second flying lap, puts it P4 with a 2:02.867. And we'll be enjoying a little bit of a tow for a bit more of this lap, but it does seem like he has got the pace over Klinger, so we'll be going to create some space for himself not to get held up. The number of drivers behind are rapidly improving. Chris Wright again. Back onto the Wellington Straight and prepping to finish another flying lap. Is improving on this lap, but not by a huge amount. Chris Wright has still got just over 3 minutes remaining. to set a faster time. And over the line, slight improvement in time, a 2:03.192. Stays P8. And driver going from strength to strength is Joe Wilson. Jens Nielsen has got within 3/10, but I think that gap is going to be short-lived. There's Wilson. Comes out the final corner using all of the curbing. Maximising the width of the track as he comes down towards start finish line. Improves his time to a 2:01.282. That puts Jens Nielsen about half a second away at the moment. It is not close at the top. But can Nielsen find some more pace in this latter half of this lap? It doesn't seem like it. It's just scrubbing off some time there through Aintree, and we'll have another flying lap after this one. There's Jens Nielsen of Old Folks Motors. Takes the widest possible entry into Woodcut and slips wide of the track limits, but I think throwing away this lap in order to get the best possible run into what will be his final flyer of this session. So we will check back in with Jens Nielsen further around his lap to see how he gets on. But Jerome Eckhard currently 1.5 seconds off the pace of Joe Wilson. Looking like they're on a solid flying lap at the moment. Some 7/10 up. Just needs to hook together this final sector, and it should be decent time. It could see them improve all the way up into P3, maybe even knocking on the door of P4 or P2. Not quite. P3 for Eckhard. There's John Sawyer. Moves it around village into the loop. And the throttle for the long run down the Wellington Straight, which he'll be quite grateful for the distant tow from Klinger ahead. As Joe Wilson sets the final lap time of his session of a 2:01.182. Interested to see if anyone has an answer to that page shown by Joe Wilson. As John Sawyer rounds the final corner, this should be a sizable improvement. And up to P3 goes Sawyer, his final attempt of the session. Grant DeMoore also improves up to P5. But as we check back in with Jens Nielsen for his final roll of the dice as he comes into Woodcut. And it's close, but I don't quite think close enough. So he crosses the line. 0.08 of a second the margin. The pole position sets ourselves up for what will be, let's hope, a close race here tonight. And as we turn our attention to the BMW M2s who take now to the track, it is Callum Scotland who leads out our pack of M2s, and we will go on board with the driver in the purple livery as we check in on the standings for the TCX class. And it is Oscar Yaram who leads the way, 440 points to his name, 20 points up on Andre Thierry, who currently sits in P2. We then have Marco Lorenzo, Anthony Victor Chappelle and Callum Scotland separated by very little, that the battle over P3. And then Lennon Bromfield, Jules Flint, Magnus Mortensen, Max Davies and Carlos Jimenez all very, very close together in that battle over P6. as Scotland gets underway. For his first flying lap, we will stay on board as he heads through Copse Corner. A little bit of a bump over that apex curbing. It does take a little while just to get the confidence to carry the full speed through Copse. Very easy corner to run wide and get a track limits violation. We come through Chapel Corner now. On long run down towards Stowe. These TCX cars have not got much in the way of downforce. All of their grip coming from the suspension and the chassis. They're not quite able to carry the speed through the corners that we see from the also downforce limited, but not quite to the same extent, Porsche Cup cars. Coming through Abbey, another fast right hand corner. And keeping it within track limits, opening up Farm Corner as we come down towards Village. Watching out for that big inside curb as Callum Scotland gets hard on the brakes, understeers his way into the corner. Tyres not at their optimum grip just yet. As he buries the throttle to come through Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. Two corners left to go here for Callum Scotland. Picking up the apex curbing nicely, runs it out wide. It's foot to the floor from here, and we'll see our first representative time from the BMW M2s, and it is a 2:16.585. Callum Scotland very quickly beaten by our championship leader Oscar Yaram with a 2:16.142, half a second clear of Callum Scotland. As we see most of our drivers putting in their first laps. It is Lennon Bromfield currently down in P3, looking to improve on this second flying lap. And Eric Berg chucking it in through Stowe, quite wide of the apex and quite wide of the circuit in general, as this lap will be invalidated. Have to get himself around back onto another flight. Also, we've got an invalid lap from Callum Scotland, who will not be challenging Oscar Yaram this lap around. And then Bromfield though, going down into Vale. As we have a gaggle of cars looking like that's Alex Perry, Jules Flint, now Lennon Bromfield, making their way through Abbey. As Oscar Yaram just ahead of Bromfield is on an improving lap as well. Looking to stamp his authority all over this session. He's got yellow flags up. Are returning to the garage. As we come through the final corner, first across the line out of this pack will be Anthony Victor Chappelle, who's up to a 2:17.5. Jules Flint moving up to a 219.4. And Bromfield staying in P3, 216.6. A decent improvement in time, putting them very close now to Callum Scotland as Leonard Bromfield falls off the circuit. And well, unless they can get out of the pits for another lap almost instantly, I think that's going to be their opportunity. Oh, and they think they've realised the mistake they've made as they go to pull out of the pit lane. Not enough time. Complete an outlap around this Silverstone circuit. And Bromfield's going to have to settle for third at best. Will be starting just behind the pair of Oscar Yaram and Callum Scotland if all things stay the same. These two still following each other around on circuit. There's Jules Flint finding plenty of time, some 2.5 seconds off the absolute pace at the moment, but finding a decent heap of time on this lap. Could see him challenging some of the cars ahead as Alex Perry, that Shrek liveried car, filling the mirrors of Jules Flint. We do have rules here in Pitskill that no overtaking a car who is on a flying lap. So Alex Perry will just have to back out of this one, even if he has got superior pace at this point. Will not be able to utilise it. As Callum Scotland just runs wide of track limits again, stepping those two left-hand tyres just outside of the edge of the curbing, and will be a P2 at best for Scotland. We'll turn our attentions back to Jules Flint, who's getting a distant tow from the no practice gang livery ahead of him. Not sure who's running that livery tonight. We will see that in the grid walk in a few moments' time, I have no doubt. There's Jules Flint taking the widest possible line into Luffield, snapping the rear around, and I suspect losing a whole bunch of the time he'd built up over that lap. As he buries the throttle, comes out the final corner, crosses the line, improves his time, not his position, to 18.2. We have just a few more drivers left to complete. I was going to say their final flying laps, but actually we haven't hit 0 yet, and does mean both Jules Flint and Alex Perry can go again. Callum Scotland also on another flying lap does not seem to be improving, and not to the standard required to unseat Oscar Yaram from that top spot. Alex Perry absolutely flying on this lap at the moment, currently 1.2 seconds up on their previous best. This could see them challenging the likes of Jules Flint, who they're currently following around this racing circuit. As neither Yaram or Scotland are improving on this lap, we will keep with Alex Perry. Who is now just in a straight fight with Jules Flint. Oh, as Alex Perry kicking the rear out through Farm Curve. And slightly missing the apex there of Village. Into the loop we go. Jules Flint losing out a bit of pace on that lap, and Alex Perry not quite sure doing enough to challenge Flint, but might have enough in hand to jump ahead of Hamilton, who is the car in the no practice gang livery. I can see it from the driver numbers. And Hamilton on a invalid lap at the moment. And Alex Perry, I think, just throwing away all the pace they'd found on that lap. And this is not going to be a challenge for P30 on the grid. And that is our qualifying session over for tonight's race. As our drivers line themselves up on the grid, we will momentarily through a grid walk of all the drivers participating in tonight's race. So welcome back. On pole position tonight we have got Joe Wilson in the number 64 car. He'll be starting alongside Jens Nielsen in the 426. On the second row of the grid, we have got John Sawyer, who will be starting alongside Jerome Eckhart. And P5 is Florent Damour, and he'll be starting alongside last round's race winner, Sam McCarthy. In P7, we have got the Isa liveried Hef Martin, starting alongside Irideus Partes. Jordi Navarro is in P9, and he'll be starting alongside Andrew Eccleston. Chris Wright, P11, alongside Florian Amarin. In P13, we've got Lars Ellers, and he'll be starting alongside Martin Kuish, who returns to the black livery. P15 is Slavek Klinger in the number 666 car with a very distinctive flame livery there. We'll not be able to miss him on track. In P16 we have got Mark Kirstein in the car. In P17 it's Jakub Borovic in the 301 alongside Georgi Cano. We will hope that him and Jordi Navarro don't get too close together on track. Otherwise, as always, they are very difficult to tell apart. In P19, in the familiar livery of Fillines Nitro, that Linux style livery can be spot just about anywhere on track. And in P20, we have Thibault DeWitt in the 128 car. In P21, we have got Luke Savato. And in P22, it is Jarno Briznek. And that rounds out our Porsche Cup grid for tonight's race. As we take a look at our BMW M2 runners. Pole position, it is Oscar Yarem, and he will be starting alongside Callum Scotland. In P3, we have got the Amazon liveried Lennon Bromfield, who will be starting alongside Daniel Barnes. In P27 is Eric Berg. We'll be starting alongside Anthony Victor Chappelle. In P29 is Jules Flint, with Usain Hamilton starting in P30. In P31 we have got the Shrek liveried Alex Perry, with Nicholas Max starting in P32. And rounding out our grid in P33 is Truls Levenklev. As we return our attention back to the front of the field, as our formation lap heads into the Vale chicane. Gives me just enough time to explain our race format to those of you who may be new. So for tonight we have got a 30 minutes race ahead of us with a single mandatory pit stop for all of our drivers. That pit stop will contain 25 seconds of refueling, an optional tyre change if the drivers wish to take advantage. Just an extra 5 seconds if they want to. And reminder, for our championship we do have 2 drop rounds, so there is still plenty of opportunity for those drivers who may have had some unfortunate instance in previous rounds to pick up the pieces and try and score themselves a decent position come the championship end. And a reminder, as always, if you do want to get involved in any of these races, please do check out the link to pitskill.io in the description below this video and you'll get yourself signed up to these Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass races, as well as a multitude of other races provided by Pitskill. And as our drivers head down Wellington Straight on this formation lap, we are but moments away from getting this race started here at Silverstone. As you hear the glorious roar of those Porsche 992 engines. Drivers line up 2 by 2. We will come around final 2 corners of the circuit, get ourselves lined up on the start-finish line and await green flag. Get our race underway. As a reminder, is Joe Wilson starting alongside Jens Nielsen on the front row. And they will be having their eyes fixed on the lights on the start-finish straight. Not too long of a run down into Copse Corner, and it's a very, very fast corner. So it will be a bold driver who goes for an overtake. And we are underway here at Silverstone. It's a good start from Joe Wilson, holds position ahead of Jens Nielsen. We follow the pack around. Jens Nielsen having a look around the outside as we come into Maggots and Beckett's. Looks like behind as well we've got, oh, I was about to say relatively clean getaway, but I think that is Sam McCarthy off into the gravel as they snake the crocodile through Maggots and Beckett's. It's Joe Wilson who remains out in the lead of this race. Down in the BMW M2 pack, it is Callum Scotland who's managed to get the jump, leading ahead of Lennon Bromfield, and Oscar Yaron dropped down into 3rd position in class. But we'll wait for things to quieten down and we'll take a look and see what happened at the start of this race. Shuffle these cars around. As Bromfield looking around the outside into Vale, turns to the inside for the second part of the chicane. Bromfield just not with the overlap as they go into Club Corner. And it is Callum Scotland who maintains the lead of the BMW M2 class for now. Oscar Yaron looking all over the back of Bromfield, and Berg also getting involved in this battle. We head into Village. Bromfield all over the back of Scotland, and well, these TCX cars actually managing to keep relatively close to the cups as there's been a little bit of carnage in the Porsche Cup class. Callum Scotland well, they did not get rear-ended by a very aggressive looking Porsche Cup. We change our attention over now to our Porsche Cup class, and it is Joe Wilson who still has the lead over Jens Nielsen, with John Sawyer just about a second behind this pairing. And behind them they come through thick and fast. Jerome Eckhart in P4, being followed closely by Florent Demore and Sam McCarthy, having recovered from his earlier off-track moment. Martin's been P7 and keeping Sam McCarthy honest through this opening laps of this race. Chris Wright also keeping close in there behind as they really are snaking their way through these opening laps of the race. The number 88 car, that of Hamilton, has had an incident in the first sector, as has the number 420 of Perry, so they can keep themselves underway. There's Navarro having a spin and losing out multiple positions. What happened to Navarro there? It's very close battling and a slight nudge. Oh, and the hard coming together. And imagine that was considerable damage for the pair of them as they get themselves back underway. Navarro now down into P19 as Partes makes his way up. And Jordan Navarro drops down into P20 as Courage and Cano. Oh, as it seems like the top drap cars not having the best of luck in this race, as There's contact again, this time for Jordi Cano. And he gets himself on circuit. Now down in P21. As Florent de Moor having a twitchy old time there. What happened to Sam McCarthy? Oh, yep, that was Florent de Moor's wayward moment, knocking Sam McCarthy out towards the Armco. Marshall waving the green flag in his face there. I think that's a somewhat premature green flag there from the Marshal. There was definitely a car off the circuit, wanting a yellow flag perhaps. So Florent de Moor now being chased by F. Martin. And with Chris Wright in very, very close proximity as they come down the hang straight towards Stowe. Is anyone going to be bold enough to try a move? Oh, as Hef Martin having a look up the inside into Vale. Florent de Moor under assault at the moment. And this is Sam McCarthy on his way trying to recover something from this race, trying to go the long way around the outside through Club Corner and onto the Hamilton Straight. Side by side they go through Abbey, and Sam McCarthy recovers a position up into P13. It will be slight solace there for Sam McCarthy, recovering a position. He should have been fighting much further up the field as Chris Wright is looking to the outside of Hef Martin. Will he be able to hold on to this one all the way around? Not quite. Hef Martin holds the position, and now Chris Wright under threat from Amrian. And this is hard battling between this pair, as Hef Martin giving plenty of space. Through woodcuts they come into Copse Corner, side by side. Chris Wright backing out ever so slightly, but these battling so hard that Amrian wants a way through as well. Now Chris Wright up into P6. He looks to start to go and chase down Florent de Moor up ahead. As this battle stays close. As we check in with the battle for P4, the BMW M2 class. Anthony Victor Chappelle running in P4 with Barnes behind. Was that a car disappearing? That Bromfield into the pits. As Callum Scotland leading the way in this M2 class, with Oscar Yaram now 2.1 seconds behind, with Berg and a further 1.3 behind. And let's see, was there an incident at the race start for the 156 car? Oscar Yaram not. Yes, although I do see we did have contact between Oscar Yaram and Len Bromfield, so I wonder if this is why Bromfield ended up in the pit. Oh, a big slide, and well, Yaram not coming off too badly from that one. Might have a bit of a scuff bodywork there on the right hand side of his car, but well, very close moment to a T-boning there. With Joe Wilson still leading this race ahead of Jens Nielsen. They're now approaching onto the back of the M2 field as the driver who took an early pit stop, Lennon Bromfield, some way off the back of his class, but still, reminder to everyone, we do still have the rest of the field to make their mandatory pit stop, so one field could still find themselves getting back into this race further down the line. There's Nitro and Kouij moving side by side. Kouij looking like they've got considerable damage to the left side of that Cup car. They have certainly been in the wars. As Nitro, veteran of this series, looking for a way through. And you can see just behind Sam McCarthy, who's on their recovery drive, catching them rapidly. Will want to try and find a way through this traffic as quick as he can. Hopefully he still keeps it safe. As we exit out of Aintree, it's Fernandez Nitro with a good run here behind Kouij. Kouij taking the defensive inside line. But Nitro not close enough to have a look anyway, as Kouij sends it in deep. And Nitro now up into P11. And Sam McCarthy deciding this is the time for him to peel off into the pit lane, get himself out of this traffic, and see if he can find some clean air in which to run his race. And now Chris Wright is right under that rear wing of Florent Demort as they come through Stowe Corner. Is Chris Wright going to have a look to the outside as they come into Vale, which is back, should have a good run through Club Corner. The run down to Abbey is Chris Wright feeling brave. He looks to the inside of Abbey. It would be a bold move to send from that far back, putting Florent Demort under some real pressure here. He looks to the inside at Village. Florent Demort gets it to the apex. No space created for Chris Wright at the moment. Daniel Barnes holding on ahead of Anthony Victor Chappelle, although looking like Chappelle now with the overlap as they come down towards Stowe Corner, side by side as they head into the braking zone, and Barnes keeping it tight to the apex, leaving plenty of room on the outside for Chappelle. I think Chappelle might have a good run here up the inside. They come through Vale, but Barnes carrying the speed, well held. And that is some good racecraft between this pair, who are battling now over P5, oh no, sorry, P4 in class. Sorry, I was right, P5 in class. Barnes and Chappelle. Jules Flint also looking to get in on this action. Oh, as there's a little bit of rubbing, and Chappelle sent off into the grass. And this looking like a chaotic section of the circuit. And again, there's more contact between Barnes and Chappelle as Jules Flint has made his way through. And now out on track in some clean air is Jens Nielsen, who's now set the fastest lap of the race. 201.0. Not that much faster than the best lap of Joe Wilson, and Jens Nielsen is going to want to clear this back marker traffic as quickly as he can, because there is a strategy race on at the moment as Joe Wilson makes his way around the final corner and barely makes it into the pits ahead of Hamilton. That was extremely close to contact as Joe Wilson cuts across the front of the BMW, makes it into the pit lane, and we'll wait to see where this puts him out in comparison to Jens Nielsen. Down in P9, we've got a battle between Slavek, Klinger, Ehlers and Coy. And there's Nitro also involved in this one as he takes the train through the, I was going to say the first sector, but this is the first, actually, this is the first sector. The Maggots, Beckett's. And as Ehlers getting extremely sideways, coming through Chapel Corner. And what glorious music these 992 engines do make. We come down towards Vale Corner. Klinger not looking to make any defensive shapes at the moment. As this crocodile snakes its way through and out of Club Corner. Ehlers with a humongous turn of speed is almost pushing Klinger through these corners. It almost was more than almost as Klinger gets that splitter right under the diffuser of Klinger. And now, side by side, through the loop they go, slight bit of contact, and that sees Ehlers dropping down P9 behind Coy and Nitro, and what was looking like a good close battle, a little too close in the end. We turn our attention to the net race leader, and Joe Wilson just 1.2 seconds ahead of Jens Nielsen now. Battle for the win of this race still very much on at this stage. As we have got hitters from the front of our BMW M2 field as Callum Scotland comes through the final corner. We've got our pole sitter and championship leader Oscar Yaram in the pit lane. Reminder now that this was a 2-second gap before the pits, and looks like Yaram is on their way out of the pit lane. And Callum Scotland now finds himself 5 seconds down on Yaram. So, not sure if that was tyres taken. It was 34 seconds in the box for Callum Scotland, so not sure if there was damage and new tyres there. But that certainly has cost him the race lead at this point. Now being 5 seconds off of Yaram. And I guess can only hope that he finds a little bit more pace from those brand new tyres. Also with Berg for company behind as well. It's not quite gone the way of Callum Scotland at this stage in the race. As pit stops are over, and F. Martin now has Chris Wright for company yet again. As they come through Club Corner. As Florent de Moore now leads this race, yet to hit in this race, so it remains to be seen where they will come out in relation to Wright and Martin. Stomach Klinger has picked up a stop-go 30 penalty. I can only imagine that is for speeding in the pit lane, and that is not going to do their race much good at all. We go back on board with Chris Wright as he looks for a way to improve his position. Martin not making the same mistake that we saw from Koi earlier on. Keeping it tight to the apex of Bromfield. Getting a couple of wheels out onto the dirt, leaves just enough space for Martin and Wright to make their way through. And yet again, Chris Wright just catching the BMW at the wrong moment to be held up as they go through Copse Corner. Passing Jules Flint into Maggots and Beckett's. That's now Chris Wright hitting the orange sausage curbs as they go through Chapel Corner, and now the gap opening up to about half a second, and F. Martin gets a little bit of breathing room. Lars Ehlers on the back of Koi. As we come through on the corner, and Lars Ehlers pulls off into the pit lane. Koi maintains the position out on track. Will be one of only 3 drivers, make that 2 drivers who have yet to come into the pit lane to make their mandatory pit stop, as also Jakub Borovic stays out. So it is Koi and Borovic who stay out on track, and that has served their one and only pit stop for this race. So that being said, Wout de Wit does still need to make another trip through the pit lane, this time for picking up a drive-through penalty, which I can only imagine is for speeding in the pit lane. As Martin and Chris Wright make their way past Callum Scotland. This gap between Scotland and Yaram now sitting at 3.4 seconds. Scotland is closing down that gap. And has the decision to go for fresh tyres paid off in this race. With a few laps still remaining, and a good slipstream there for Scotland from Porsche of McCarthy behind. As Chris Wright and Hef Martin heading into Vale Corner side by side, and Chris Wright moving onto the inside line, had enough of an advantage going into the corner and has now taken P7. I was about to say taken P7 on the road, but then he went off the road and now also gives a position over to Sam McCarthy. Chris Wright now down into P9 and has his work to do all over again. And we are starting to see Some battles now closing down on circuit. As Joe Wilson finds himself behind driver yet to pit, Borovic. And this, although both on a differing pit strategies, this is technically a battle for position. Borovic under absolutely no reason to get out of the way, no obligation whatsoever. Oh, and well, talent is one way that will get him out of the way as he takes out our second place driver Jens Nielsen. And well, that could not have been a pretty thing to see for Jens Nielsen, putting an end to his chances to take the win here at Silverstone. And that must be a heavily damaged car. And we go back on board, and yeah, you don't want to be putting your steering wheel that way on the straight. That is some serious damage that Jens Nielsen is carrying in that car. So, Hef Martin now finding themselves still back in front of Sam McCarthy and Chris Wright, holding on very well in this race. Just 4 minutes 40 seconds to go for both McCarthy and Wright. Put out to try and take the outside line, as Jens Nielsen doing very well to keep out of the way with what is a considerably damaged car. As the battle for the Porsche Cups has been neutralised, Callum Scotland has brought himself back into contention for this race win, and the way we questioned the strategy of Scotland earlier in this race, saying it cost himself the race lead, is now not looking like such a terrible decision, assuming like Callum Scotland has really got the pace at the moment. 1.5 seconds faster around a lap than Oscar Yaran last time around. Still with only 3.5 minutes remaining of this race. Will be a big ask to try and take the lead in this race. But at the moment, Callum Scotland looking absolutely rapid. As Hef Martin still holds on ahead of Sam McCarthy and Chris Wright as they come down towards Abbey Corner. Sam McCarthy having a glance, trying to find a way through. And Sam McCarthy has the inside line. And now McCarthy made his way through, and Chris Wright is not far off either. Now considerable overlap coming into the outside. Through Duffield they go, and Chris Wright still with not just enough overlap, and has to make do with P6 for now. We come out 2 laps remaining for these Porsche Cup drivers, as Callum Scotland all over the back of Oscar Yaran now. This is the battle for the lead in the BMW M2 class. That's it. Everyone has made... Oh, as Oscar Yaran well off the circuit there. And that has allowed Callum Scotland back through into the lead. Not sure if there's damage. We did see that slight impact with Oscar Yaran before with Blomfield, but it didn't look considerable enough to cause that or the lack of grip. So Oscar Yaran with a uncommon mistake. And now Callum Scotland into the lead of TCX class, as things are getting awfully close. Down in the Porsche Cup, we have got Hef Martin, Chris Wright, Florent de Moor and Florent Amarin all battling out over P5, as Florent de Moor has made his way past Chris Wright and is now attacking Hef Martin. Now Florent de Moor looks to the outside, going to try and get the switch back. Oh, it is a beautiful move from Florent de Moor. He's set that one up perfectly, carried the speed, widened the corner, got the exit, and as Chris Wright has also got the company all over his rear end, Florent de Moor with an absolutely beautiful move as there's strong contact between Chris Wright and Hef Martin, both pirouetting off into the dirt. Let's take another look at that one from... Oh, didn't quite go far enough back to see that one, but... And the Helicam is drunk. And as Chris Wright gets himself back underway as well. It was an ignoble end to what was a extremely close and fair race up until that point. They find themselves now dropping down to P11 and P12 respectively. And we have a three-way tussle over P4 in the BMW M2s as Jules Flint leads Bromfield and Anthony Victor Chappelle. As Joe Wilson brings us around, final few corners. Times don't necessarily describe the closeness of this race we had here tonight. If it wasn't for that unfortunate incident, we could have seen a bit more from Jens Nielsen tonight, but that still takes nothing away from the drive from this man here, Joe Wilson, who takes the win here at Silverstone, and to extend his championship lead, bring it home in P2. John Sawyer will be followed home by Jerome Eckhard. Congratulations to our podium finishers in the Porsche Cup class. Crossing the line in P4 is Sam McCarthy. After an early race incident, it was a great recovery drive from McCarthy. Florent de Moor brings it home in P5 with Amrian in P6. Others crossing the line in P7 with Coy in P8, Partes in P9, and Kirstein finishing in P10. As we turn our attention to the BMW M2 TCX class, is Callum Scotland, who's currently leading Oscar Yaram by just a second. And as we come out of the final corner, see the checkered flag will be Callum Scotland taking the win in the TCX class, followed very closely by Oscar Yaram, who will still maintain their championship lead for a very strong run of races. In P3 is Eric Berg with Jules Flint. We're in the final corner now to take P4 ahead of Alan Bromfield with a good recovery, and Anthony Victor Chappelle taking P6. And the final driver to complete the race on the lead lap will be Barnes. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our race winners in, also our podium sitters in the 2 classes were Joe Wilson, John Sawyer, and Eckhart. And in the TCXs, it was from Scotland, Oscar Yaram, and Eric Burke. Again, thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you have enjoyed this broadcast, please do like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And do head on over to pitskill.io to check out all of our races. Get yourself signed up, get on the grid, and come join us. We'd love to have you. And do, while you're there, check out some of the other streams for the other races, especially on Wednesday evenings when we have our GT3 Elite flagship series. Always worth a watch. The best of the Pitskill.io duke it out on track. You'll see them at Silverstone this week for this week's the track of this week. And next week we'll be returning same time, same place when we go for round 8 at Kyalami. Until then, I will leave you with the highlights from tonight's race. Until next time, a very lovely rest of your day. Bye.